This podcast is sponsored by AXA Farm Insurance. AXA offers tailored cover to fit your unique needs, whether it's public liability or protection for your family home, outbuildings or farm vehicles. Based in Athlone, the AXA Farm team of agri-specialists and regional managers work together to ensure you receive the seamless support you need. Switching to AXA is easy thanks to an innovative online service that enables you to quickly and easily find the best cover for your needs. For more information, head to AXA.ie. AXA Insurance DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, and you're very welcome to this episode of The Farming Week, the podcast from Agriland in association with AXA Insurance that keeps you up to date with all the latest in Irish agriculture. I'm Francess McDonnell, and joining me this week are Kathleen O Sullivan, Maitiú Monaghan and our technical beef specialist Breifne O'Brien. And we're going to be chatting about some of the biggest stories that we've been covering here in Agriland. First, let's look at some really significant figures that have been released by the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, which confirm that there has been a significant drop in the number of cattle in Ireland. So, Breifne, what is happening to the national herd?
Yeah, Francis. So the number of cattle in Ireland as of the 1st of June 2025 was more than 276,000 head below the same time last year. And that's according to the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine's figures. So this 3.8% drop in the national herd is being attributed to a combination of factors, including reduced suckler and dairy cow numbers, as well as increased live exports. Calf births have fallen by over 56,000 head to date this year, and as of June 1st, there were over 82,000 fewer cows in the country when compared to 12 months previously.
And what in turn does this mean for factory cattle supplies, Breifne?
Well, Francis, it's no secret that factory cattle supplies are currently tight and cattle supplies are low across Europe this year. Bord Bia confirmed this to Agriland earlier this week by saying factory cattle supplies have come under significant pressure in the past few weeks. The Irish Food Board says that this trend is stemming from a notable reduction in slaughter age or factory fit cattle currently on Irish farms. The current forecasted decline in cattle kill for 2025 with total throughput is expected to be back in the region of 70 to 90,000 head, subject to no major interruptions in the trade. The reality is, Francis, with cow numbers falling and strong export demand for Irish cattle expected to continue, this trend of falling numbers could well exacerbate in the coming years.
Now, according to the Irish Cattle and Sheep Farmers Association, that represents a 3.8% drop in relation to the figures released from DAFM. So should that be, as they have called it, a wake-up call for policymakers?
Yes, absolutely. But I suppose it's hard to know will any single policy tool be able to reverse the trend we are currently seeing. You know, there's issues out there that have been widely talked about, you know, the issues with succession on farms across Ireland, as well as policy from previous governments which placed maybe less focus on production itself. I suppose from this government and the policymakers, a focus on getting young farmers actively farming and supports that incentivise production in a sustainable manner would certainly be a good place to start.
Okay, thanks for that, Breifne. So let's just swing back to 2025. I know we've been looking there about the general outlook for the sector. So while the future may look uncertain for the national herd, a new report from GAEC this week suggests that there's likely to be a major jump in average farm incomes on beef farms this year. Kathleen, tell us more about this report, and are farmers in general likely to have more money in their pockets in 2025?
Well, Francis, farmers will certainly be hoping they'll see their incomes rise this year, and there is some positivity in new figures from GAEC. So in its new report released this week, GAEC economists are forecasting that average farm income, driven by stronger returns from dairy and dry stock enterprises, is to rise to €48,500 in 2025. This against a backdrop of global uncertainty, tariff tensions, and in some cases, favourable weather conditions. And GAEC economists are predicting that average farm income levels could jump this year by as much as 39% compared to 2024 figures. Following on from what Breifne discussed, cattle rearing farms are likely to see the biggest jump in average income this year, with a forecast 85% increase to €25,000. In contrast, there is a less optimistic forecast for the pig sector, where growth is expected to be more modest, while the average income on dairy farms in 2025 is forecast to increase by 30% to the region of 140,000. So sheep farmers are also expected to see a 22% improvement on incomes this year, while tillage farmers' incomes are likely to be below the average income at 43,000 in 2025, which would represent growth of approximately 12% year on year. So according to the Teagasc economists, overall production costs in Ireland are broadly in line with 2024 levels, with some variation across production systems, Teagasc said. So agricultural input markets have been relatively stable in 2025 overall as well, according to Teagasc. So there is certainly some optimism in those figures, which will hopefully be a boost for farmers this year.
And of course, all of that does come with a health warning when we don't know really what's happening on the tariffs fronts. We have had the indication now between the US and the EU deal, but who knows what President Trump might like to pull out of his pocket next. But we'll stick with the thorny subject of farm finances for a moment, because while these latest forecasts from Teagasc might be upbeat, Kathleen, you've also been looking this week at some of the key advice for farmers who might be considering their finance options at this time.
Yeah, Frances. So I suppose especially as we progress into the second half of the year, farmers might be considering kind of what investments they can make on the farm and what their financing options might be. So Agriland published this week some advice from Teagasc reminding farmers that in addition to, I suppose, the elements to consider in relation to a farm loan itself, farmers should think of the 5 C's of credit that lenders will use in determining the loan merits. So these 5 C's are capital, capacity, collateral, conditions and character. And in applying for a loan, Teagasc Farm Management Union said some of the factors that lenders and borrowers must determine include the amount of income the farm business will generate, expected annual expenses, potential for variation of income and expenses, timing of debt and cash flow demands, and family living expenses. Teagasc has also outlined a number of poor repayment indicators to be aware of, which include poor track record with the bank, excessive fixed costs, high variable costs, poor efficiency, of course, poor financial planning, and too small a farm to generate adequate income. So Agriland contacted a number of lenders operating in Ireland for this story, and farmers can read on our website about the interest rates, approval times for farm loans, and more information that they should know.
Yeah, and we always say every farm system is different and you should take advice that's based on your own particular farm system. Let's move away now to a subject which has been a consistent concern for farmers with carbon-rich peaty soils, and that is the Good Agriculture and Environmental Condition 2, GAEC 2 as it's commonly known. So Kathleen, what has been happening this week? Because we've had some developments in relation to that.
So the Department of Agriculture this week has launched an appeals process for the GAEC 2. GAEC 2 is the conditionality standard of the Common Agricultural Policy related to the protection of peatlands and wetlands. It formally entered into force on May 1st, which means that any works carried out before that date don't come under the scope of the condition. Under the condition, the maintenance of an existing drain is permitted and replacement is acceptable. However, new drainage on never drained parcels of land will require planning permission or an exemption from the local authority, as is currently the case under national legislation. So the department previously confirmed to Agriland that it has contacted over 44,000 farmers in relation to the lands covered by GAEC 2. Farmers or their advisors can check if their land is covered by the condition through the Ag-Food online portal. Parcels with areas of 50% or more peat soil are determined as applicable to GAEC 2. So in relation to the appeals process announced this week, the department has outlined what is required to submit an appeal, and farm organisations have raised concerns with what is being required. Earlier in the week, the Irish Nature and Hill Farmers Association had questioned the inclusion of 2 of the appeal requirements: a signed declaration from the appellant that the parcels in question have never been drained and that they plan to carry out drainage works in 2025, and that evidence is needed that shows the appellant plans to carry out drainage work in 2025, such as a contractor, quotation, estimate of costs, etc. The association said it has written to the department indicating the need to remove both points, claiming they are not relevant. So the farm organisation said that those appealing are doing so because they believe the land has been incorrectly included under the GAEC 2 standard. But in the latest development, the Irish Farmers Association Rural Development Chair John Curran has said amendments have been made to the GAEC 2 application forms following concerns raised by IFA earlier this week. The IFA said it is now clear that all farmers have the opportunity to appeal the indicative a GAEC status of individual parcels. Soil samples, geotagged photos, and a planner's report are the core information requirements. John Curran said, ensuring all farmers are given the opportunity to appeal the GAEC status of individual parcels is essential. He said the IFA has been getting calls from farmers since GAEC maps were released, saying there is no way individual parcels were GAEC land and that they now have a chance to appeal the inclusion of these parcels. Curran said the clarification also makes the need for signed declarations and proof of drainage works obsolete. He said these requirements should be removed from appeal application requirements. He also said there is no closing date for appeals, the IFA said in a statement on Thursday.
And I just want to let you know that we do have an explainer on our website there about what is needed to submit a GAEC appeal. So you can find that on our website and on our app if you want to get more information about it. And I just want to let you know about some breaking news which is happening as we're on our podcast. The Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Martin Hayden, has confirmed that avian influenza, that's bird flu, has been detected in a small backyard flock in County Donegal. The Minister has told Agriland that there are no trade implications for the Irish poultry industry in relation to this detection due to the very small size of the flock. But you can find out more about that story on our app and on our website. This week, the government has launched a new 4-week public consultation, and it's in relation to proposed changes to planning permission exemptions. Current planning exemptions have been in place for more than 20 years, but these proposed changes could make a big difference in rural areas. And joining us now to tell us more about that is Maitiú Monaghan.
Yeah, so the government is examining what exactly is exempt from planning permission and assessing whether that is then fit for purpose. New regulations will be drafted in the coming months, and people are being encouraged to share their views with the Department of Housing. One of the big changes is that a person would no longer need to apply for and then attain planning permission for certain types of development. These range from slurry storage capacity to fencing specifications, animal housing, and biomass boiler units. One of the proposed exemptions includes fencing on farms where an environmental plan has been approved by the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. There is also a proposal to provide additional slurry storage capacity on farms with a max capacity of 1,500 cubic metres, and separately to increase the exemption of animal housing size to no more than 450 square metres. Another proposal is to allow solar panels on the roofs of farm buildings to support the running of a farm. Government is also questioning whether wind turbine exemptions should be reconsidered to support self-generation power. It is also considering if the placement of anaerobic digestion units regarding size and location should be considered. Following a review of all submissions, the updated planning regulations will be finalised as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Maitiú. And just to confirm, that 4-week public consultation opened on Tuesday the 29th of July, and it will run until Tuesday, August 26th. And that wasn't the only announcement this week from the government before some of their ministers head off on their summer holidays. We also heard, Kathleen, about new legislation to set compensation rules on forestry corridor works. Now, we knew this was in the pipeline, but what exactly does it mean?
Yeah, so Cabinet this week gave the green light to new electricity supply legislation. So that will establish the rules for the compensation of landowners who are impacted by forestry corridor works. So this legislation will also attach responsibilities to landowners for corridor maintenance. So Minister for the Climate, Energy and the Environment, Darragh O'Brien, has described this as a critical piece of legislation that will help to protect the country's electricity grid. The legislation follows a pledge made by the government following the devastating consequences of Storm Owen in January, which left over 700,000 customers across the country without electricity, and some were without it for weeks on end. The Department of Climate, Energy and the Environment said that Storm Owen exposed critical vulnerabilities arising from unmanaged vegetation and commercial forestry close to electricity infrastructure. So the government has approved the priority drafting of the Electricity Supply Amendment Bill 2025, which will enable the establishment and maintenance of forestry corridors. So these are areas within a given distance of the electricity network where forestry vegetation and related activities can be restricted by law. So speaking about the legislation, Minister O'Brien said it would safeguard homes and businesses, and especially the most vulnerable members of our communities across the country during the more frequent and destructive storms we now face. So he said the legislation will also regularise the requirements on foresters in relation to electricity infrastructure, providing certainty to both the network operator and landowners. And he noted the bill also provides principles for the compensation of affected landowners. So in drafting the bill, the department said it'll engage with the forestry industry as well as other departments, Coillte, the National Parks and Wildlife Service and other relevant stakeholders, the minister said.
So we will have a lot more information to come on that because it's just really what we've heard in the bill, and we'll be keeping you all posted when we get that. Now, if there's one thing we like here in Agriland, it is a fighter who is determined to beat the odds. And in this case, he may be bald, but he's bold. Tell us more, Kathleen.
Yeah, this is a great story about a lovely little animal, Frances. So, a Louth farmer by the name of Andrew Maitiú was shocked when one of his Dexter cattle gave birth to a rare bald calf with only 2 small tufts of hair where his horns should be. Maitiú said that it is around 3 weeks since the bull calf was born, adding that he is doing brilliantly. So the farmer said that aside from not having hair, the calf was completely normal at birth, proving to be an easy calving. Maitiú's farms a herd of pedigree Dexters for breeding and beef. This is in itself is relatively rare, with the organisation Brave Herders estimating there is only approximately 3,000 head of Dexters in Ireland. So according to Maitiú's, the calf was not born premature and is only slightly smaller to the rest of the herd, with mature Dexters only standing at about 1 metre in height. He said that the calf stood and drank from the mother promptly, and the farmer explained as well that the calf was kept inside for the first week under a heat lamp, but since weaning off that, the calf is now living its best life outside. So the farmer explained how he brought the mother and calf back into the shed each night for the calf's first 2 or 3 weeks, as well as keeping it in by day during the extreme heat 2 weeks ago. So Maitiú said the calf wears a jacket around the clock and will realistically be in one for the rest of his life. So this is the mother's 4th calf, actually, highlighting how her offspring has never had any abnormalities up until now. So Maitiú said that the calf was given vitamin injections and tested clear for BVD. He said that he's applying cream to the calf's legs to prevent them from getting sore or cracking. And at the time of publication, the calf still had no name. However, Maitiú's joked about calling him Fluffy or Streaker. So if you haven't already, definitely check out the story on Agriland, where you can see a picture of the calf too in his jacket.
Oh, it is a really lovely story, and we are wishing that calf all the best here. Now, thanks for listening to this episode of the Farming Week. And before you go, let me tell you about 2 other podcasts that you might be interested in catching up with this week. The Dairy Trail, which takes listeners inside the yard of dairy farms, is chatting to a Limerick farmer who is robot milking 75 cows while breeding for capacity and solids. And there's a brand new podcast, which is part of the Farm Safe, Farm Well series, produced by Agriland Media in conjunction with AXA Insurance and funded by DAFM. With the summer holidays in full swing, the podcast looks at why it is more important than ever to ensure that children are kept safe while on the farm. And that's it for this episode. My thanks to Breifne, Kathleen and Maitiú for joining me. And please don't forget to rate, review and follow The Farming Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you have a really good week ahead.
This podcast is sponsored by AXA Farm Insurance. AXA offers tailored cover to fit your unique needs, whether it's public liability or protection for your family home, outbuildings or farm vehicles. Based in Athlone, the AXA Farm team of agri-specialists and regional managers work together to ensure you receive the seamless support you need. Switching to AXA is easy thanks to an innovative online service that enables you to quickly and easily find the best cover for your needs. For more information, head to AXA.ie. AXA Insurance Stack is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.